Right, how is everyone? Are you good? Have you had a good morning? Good, okay. The topic of my talk today is the fan experience. And what I mean by that is the music fan experience. And what I want to explore with you today is what we could learn from a new generation of music fans. Now, when I was preparing this talk, I had to look at my own music experience. And I realized that in my early years, when I was growing up, I actually didn't buy a lot of music. My music experience was based on this. It was based on home taping. Does anybody here know what the pencil is used for? Go on. Winding the tape back into, yeah. Okay, so with home taping, there were a lot of other things that we had to do. You know, if sometimes the tape would get stuck in the tape deck and you would use the pencil to wind the tape back into the cassette. Sometimes the tape would split, so you'd have to use a tiny piece of sellotape to tape the split back together, and you'd have to write all the songs into the inlays, okay? So really what that meant for me growing up is that I would religiously break the copyright law every Sunday taping songs off the radio from the top 40. That's what I did, okay? It doesn't mean that I didn't spend any money on music. I absolutely did. I spent it on merchandise. And from 18 onwards, I spent hundreds of pounds on hundreds of CDs. But my formative years with music, I barely bought any music at all, okay? And I should probably add, culturally, as a family, we didn't really have very much music. And my grandparents only ever got their music from the radio. They had no records. Okay, so what did that mean for me? Well, it meant that I think I had a very creative and engaging experience with music. Because of all the stuff that using the pencil, the sellotape, writing all the titles of the tracks into the inlays, and the ritual of listening to the top 40 every Sunday and trying to anticipate where your favourite track was going to be because you wanted to get a better version of the track than you had the week before. Okay, so that meant I had quite an immersive and imaginative experience with music, as opposed to perhaps buying the CD, which would have one track on it that I would listen to and then put it back on the shelf. Okay, so growing up, I became quite a bit of a music obsessive, big music fan. Studied music at school, and as you know, went on to do 2 degrees at the University of Westminster and over 10 years in digital music marketing and PR. So what did that mean for me? Well, over a series of marketing campaigns with some great artists, I would put myself in the shoes of the fan and wonder what they would like to see in terms of their music being communicated with them. And I also, the reason that we had to do that is we weren't always fans of the music that we had to work on, to be honest. So you had to use your imagination. And I think that imaginative skill came from the home taping. And through a series of learnings and observations and conversations with professional friends and colleagues, I hit upon an idea, okay? And that came in the form of a question, okay? And that was, what would happen if we put the experience of the music fan at the forefront of every strategic music decision that we made? So why did I think this? Well, I'm a big fan of second-hand experience. I'm a big fan of many things. Second-hand experience is one of them. I think that if I have a problem and somebody else has already had that problem and got the solution, I would rather go to them and get their solution and apply their solution to my problem and get the results. Now, in today's time with the technology that we have, the internet is meant to be a big problem for the music business. People are sharing music with the internet and they're getting their music for free via the internet. What it is it's a disruptive technology. And that doesn't work very well with the copyright business model. This is a very familiar story that we have. What people are actually doing is they're sharing lots of information via the internet. They're sharing thoughts, ideas, emotions, and experiences. It's an information revolution. This is not the first time we've had this, okay? Well, we've also had this with the printing press in the middle of the 15th century. The printing press was a very comparatively accurate technology compared to the hand copyists of the time. In fact, the printing press put the hand copyists out of business. And our adoption of the printing press meant that we were able to share more information. We were able to share ideas, thoughts, emotions, and experiences. And what that meant for us was the spread of literacy. So the printing press, very similarly, was an information revolution and did a lot of similar things to the internet today. So this is what I mean by learning from second-hand experiences. We can look back over history. Now, we see miniature versions of this type of activity throughout the music business. In the middle of the 19th century, sheet music was very, very fashionable. People had pianos in their parlours. Everyone was an amateur musician, okay? So what that meant was that the live music industry was a little bit worried about this trend. And they said, well, if everybody can buy sheet music and listen to it in their own homes, then surely that will mean the death of the live music industry. The gramophone makes its appearance. People start buying records. The sheet music industry gets a little bit worried about this and says, well, hang on a minute. If everybody can buy records and listen to their favourite stars singing in their own parlours, then no one's going to buy sheet music, and surely the sheet music will die. So the sheet music industry will die. Radio becomes very popular, and the recorded music industry at the time gets a little bit worried and says, well, hang on a minute, if everyone can listen to music for free in their own homes via radio, then surely this will mean the death of the record industry. Then TV comes around, and radio gets very upset and distressed about it and says, well, hang on a minute, if people can watch all singing, all dancing performances of their favourite stars in their own sitting rooms, then surely that will mean the death of the radio industry. Now, the reason I make this point, I make it this way for the sake of brevity, really, but was really to illustrate a way of thinking at the time. And we know with hindsight that that didn't actually come to pass, and that's what I mean by second-hand experience, okay? So what do I learn from this? Well, I see those technologies, and I see a lot of the technologies that we adopt as human beings, as a way of communicating across vast distances. Whether it's smoke signals, the steam train, or whether it's a smartphone, I see us engaging with long-distance communication. And why are we doing this? Why are we wanting to communicate with each other across vast distances? I think really the reason that we're doing this is because we want to connect with each other in an increasingly significant manner, in ways that are more meaningful than perhaps our locality. So what happens when we've communicated with each other? Well, what we do is we share experiences. We share those experiences in a number of ways. We look at, well, we talk about what's happening to us now. We talk about what happened to us in the past. We talk about what we would like to happen to us. And we talk about what we're afraid will happen to us. So all these are forms of experience, okay? And why do we share experience? The reason we share experience as human beings is because when we share an experience, that experience becomes magnified. Okay, so for most people, being in a concert with 10,000 other people feels far more electric and far more alive than listening to music on your own. Okay, why? Because you get to absorb the energy of the people around you. You get to be in the emotion and the feeling and the atmosphere. Okay, so when you're sharing experience with other people, that experience becomes an exponentially expanded experience. Say that 3 times. An exponentially expanded experience. Now, if I have been in that concert and I go away and I tell my experience to someone who wasn't at that concert, what actually happens is I share that experience with someone else, and I get to relive that experience again. So I get to feel those feelings again. Because sometimes your mind doesn't really know the difference between reality and imagination. And hopefully, when I'm sharing that experience with my friend, I'll get to infect them with my energy and my enthusiasm. And if they share in my emotion, they share in my experience, that experience again will become an expanded experience. Now, I think that music is an experience more than anything else. It's not a format. Okay, a CD, an MP3, a stream is simply the vehicle or the receptacle for the music. And in fact, if you look at the trend in formats, you see the trend moving from the tangible to the intangible. Okay, so when I talk about the musical experience and sharing the musical experience, I don't mean the sharing of peer-to-peer files. I think that sharing musical experience is far more than a data dump. When we share musical experience, what are we really talking about? Well, we talk about it, we move to it, we work out to it, we go to concerts together and sharing that experience, we listen to it. Okay, these are some of the offline ways of doing it. Well, what about online? We're sharing streams, we're sharing videos, we're talking about it, discussing about music online, remixing, collaborating, working with each other, putting our own take on it. All these types of activities are actually part of sharing the musical experience. So what does that mean? I think that means that the fan is in control, okay? So with the technology that we have, which is the internet, and with people's ability to share their musical experience and therefore connect with each other via their musical experience, I think it means that the fan is more in control than they ever have been. It used to be that a few power agencies would tell us what to listen to, and that isn't the case now. Now, everyone can be a broadcaster, everyone can be a journalist, everyone can be a remixer, everyone can be a musician, everyone can be a singer, everyone can be a music video producer. We all have a role to play in the musical experience. What you find online and offline, but these two worlds that are coming together increasingly, is that people are collaborating together, they're innovating together, they're making decisions together, they're bringing their collective wisdom together, and sometimes that collective wisdom is far more powerful than an elite think tank with a few members. People are coming together and making decisions together, and this is all via shared experience. Because at the end of the day, a person owns their own experience. If you don't own your own experience, then really who does? And you cannot control people, and therefore you cannot control a person's experience. So what is fan experience, and what does it mean ultimately to music business enterprise? Well, fan experience, my definition of it is that it is the entire journey of a person's engagement with music, and it can span their entire lifetime, and it can even span generations. And what does this mean to the music business? Well, if we were to pull from this massive collection of knowledge and experience that the fans have, we could learn so much about them. And it could mean lots of different things, because if we were to have a better understanding of the fans' experience, then we could cater to their needs far more efficiently. So it would mean all the usual stuff, better return on investment, decreased operational costs, increased revenue, increased loyalty, better fan engagement. Okay, but of course that makes so much sense, doesn't it? Because if we are now in a crowded environment when it comes to music. It is a saturated marketplace because everybody has a part in it. And with that, that means that the products and services around music are becoming increasingly fragmented. what that means to the fan is that they are in the position to be able to choose music products and services that reflect their own variety and uniqueness. So I'll just end this talk with a couple of things. The theme of the conference today is Future Reinvented. And I can't predict the future, and no one really can. But when I talk about second-hand experience, perhaps we can learn from second-hand experience. Perhaps we can learn from what has come before us and other people's experiences as well, and just make some better calls. Because everyone has a part to play in the creation of new industry today, because things have been so democratized. But it means that you can all be part of leading and shaping your industry, and especially in the music business, okay? And the final thing that I'd like to say is I think that music is not really an entertainment asset. I think it's a connection technology. And if we allow music to be a connection technology, what could we possibly look forward to if we share our musical experiences? Well, perhaps we could look forward to better understanding of each other. Perhaps we could relate to each other better. Perhaps that would mean that we could look forward to a more compassionate and caring society. Perhaps we could be a little bit more forgiving of each other. And perhaps with all of that, we could look forward to a world that is a little bit more peaceful. Thank you very much. Thank you.